Assalamu alaikum. We are back once again for another episode of Education is the Key. Praise you to Allah. Thank you for joining us. This is your opportunity right now. And of course, doesn't have to be your only opportunity, but this is the opportunity to grab your family, your friends. Go ahead and pick up your cell phone. Yeah, you too. Go ahead and pick up your cell phone and go ahead and send a text and let everyone know that education is the key. Episode number 4 is on. And this week, the title is Keeping God Out of School. Praise due to Allah. So, of course, the fact that I'm saying praise due to Allah means that I'm probably not one of those proponents that would say that we should keep God out of school. Brother Bobby, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're working. We had a little discussion about, coming up with a title that would be catchy, and we got a little nervous on saying something too provocative.
Like, what them brothers talking about?
We don't need God in school, but decided to not do that. So, okay, Brother Bobby, you mind introducing our topic? Can you tell us a little bit about the context on why and where that topic comes from?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So this topic comes out of really the experiences that our students have in school. And when we talk about the school in general, of course, normally we're talking about the public school system. And so with regards to the public school system, we know that that's, there's a separation of quote unquote church and state. And so there can be no intentional, teaching with respect to God. What that really means, I don't know. I haven't read the legislation or whatever. But there's a very intentional effort to keep quote unquote God out of school. And so what we wanted to do, Brother Troy, is we wanted to go back to education is the key. Because this was the inspiration for this show. And so, get education is the key. I don't know if is this available, Brother Troy? If not, maybe we need to.
Yeah, and actually, I was supposed to check into that, but I will check further. But you know what? Even if it's not available, this is an opportunity. If the demand is there, I'm quite sure they'll make that happen. So I'd encourage you. You can see it scrolling right there at the bottom of the screen. Why don't you all contact the final call? You can see the information is right there. 866-602-1230 extension 200. And of course, you can visit the final call for all of the books, inshallah, that we mentioned. And if not, that's definitely the first place you should check.
And for those that don't know, this book it's edited from a transcript of an address delivered by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Detroit on May 12th, 1984, on the occasion of the 6th annual educational benefit banquet for the Dawa Elementary and Junior High School and Balalian Child Development Center. And so in an earlier episode, we dealt with the first section of the book, which deals with the greatest of goals. And for this episode, we're going to go to, and I'm going to share my screen here, add this to the stream.
Please excuse our little things that we're working this out. So sometimes we're gonna make a little snafu, but we're working it out.
Here we go. Bam. All right. So this section is entitled "The Power of Islam," and we're just going to focus in on the first, I think it's 6 or 7 paragraphs. So as you have it up on the screen, it reads: "People have keys to lock something up that is precious, or to enter some place that one desires to be, or to keep out those that one does not want where they are. The key in spiritual language represents authority and power. No man or woman truly has authority or power except that they have knowledge, true knowledge, which comes from the true knowledge of God, gives us a key to open every door. For the scriptures of the Bible tell us that what Allah God opens, no man can close, and what he closes, no man can open. The Holy Quran is a book that has many names applied to it. One of the names of the Holy Quran is Al-Nur, the light, because knowledge is a light to those who walk in darkness. Another name of the Holy Quran is the eminence, because a person who truly has knowledge cannot be leveled with the ground. People of knowledge are raised above those of ignorance, because it is knowledge that raises people to eminence from an ignominious and humble beginning. A nation cannot enslave another people who have knowledge. So, an enslaver, exploiter, or oppressor must keep people away from knowledge, for knowledge gives us power to transcend barriers. Knowledge gives us power to pierce a wall that appears to be impregnable. Knowledge gives us power to transcend the heights of mountains. Knowledge gives us power to search and fathom the depths. Knowledge gives us power to act like God. Knowledge is the key. Education is the key. And so, Brother Troy, as we were going over this reading, both of us had a similar thought that came to mind. You want to start us off with what that was?
Is that statement right there? Just it paused me. Knowledge gives us power. No, I'm sorry. Knowledge gives us power to act like God. Knowledge gives us power to act like God. And one of the things that's is always important, and of course, we always have to send a shout out to our self-improvement study group, which we encourage you all to join us on Fridays. And you can get the link and get that information right now. So you can go ahead and do it right now. Go to study.noi.org, study.noi.org, so that you can receive the assignment on a weekly basis. But one of the things that is so important, and we talked about it in our circle, Brother Bobby, is that, many of us, I admit that I'm one of those, are recovering spookism believers, believing in a mystery God. And that's a process, being in a society that's indoctrinated with this very ethereal and mystery and whatever it is, that we tend to sometimes have those types of thoughts that pop up in our mind that go back to that. So, but one of the things I think is important for us to be very clear on is that the definition that we're given from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that a God is one who has force and power. In particular, a God is one who has force and power to change reality. So when you make that statement, that knowledge gives us power to act like God, knowledge is that which is giving us the ability to execute force and power to change whatever reality that we exist in, that we live in.
That's powerful. And prior to that, it's interesting. So if knowledge does that, if you go back to the previous few paragraphs, well, then the minister says a nation cannot enslave another people who have knowledge. And then in a couple paragraphs prior to that, we see reference to the Holy Quran as being a light. And so that naturally brings into mind, you may have heard this, infamous, if you will, quote from I forget what his post was or what his station was, but his name is Henry Berry, and he was speaking to a legislature, I think, in Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And I have the quote up on the screen, so I'm just going to read it because it's like from the actual book, so it doesn't look as good as it should. But I'll just read it. And many of you have heard this, but he says, "Sir,
well, we can let him see it. They know it's official. So we can let him see something.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Let him see it's official. Go ahead." So down here, it's hard to find. So bottom, it's not right side, about halfway down. It says, "Sir, we have as far as possible closed every avenue by which light might enter their minds." They're talking about Black people. "We have only to go one step further to extinguish the capacity to see the light, and our work would be completed. They would then be reduced to the level of the beasts of the field, and we would be safe." So this, Brother Troy, we talked about earlier on a previous occasion, how this leads right into, and we're not going to get into it in this particular episode. We may save it for future episodes, but this goes directly into the mindset that was at the foundation of public education.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And of course, we can't, and we were supposed to get the cover, but we encourage you, and inshallah, in future episode, we'll make sure that we have accessible to you And maybe we can start including those in the descriptions of different books that we reference, and when available, links to them. But of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan study guide number 21 is called The New Education Paradigm. That's not the full name. Do you have it?
I could pull it off the shelf. Let me see.
I got it right here. It
Bam.
is.
The Education Challenge, a new educational paradigm for the 21st century.
And that lecture, what year was that lecture delivered? I know the study
2000,
guide
2009.
Was it?
Let's see. So the lecture, it might have been 2008. Let me check it out.
And I'll put that in the chat as well. But
yep, 2008, August 3rd, 2008.
So we definitely would encourage you to get that lecture from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I actually, Brother Bobby, listened to most of it earlier this morning as we talked about kind of what we were going to discuss. But definitely want to hear the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And just it's a difference from being able to read them, but also this was actually a gift as well to us. So you actually can download that. If you search it, you may be able to find it. But inshallah, I'll try to remember to put it in a link to it in the description of of this video, as well as somewhere else that you'll be able to find it, inshallah.
Right.
So can you go into that a little bit more in terms of I keep on wanting to call it the name that I was using before. I'm not going to even embarrass myself, but Henry Berry. Can you go into a little bit more about why that's so significant, that light, and what that light actually represents?
Well, and we have it in the reading. I'm going to go back to it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Knowledge gives us power to pierce a wall that appears to be impregnable. Knowledge gives us power to transcend the heights of mountains. Knowledge gives us power to search and fathom the depths. And as we just said, knowledge gives us power to act like God. So then we got to think about, well, what does God act like? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that God means force and power. And so think about it. When we're coming up out of slavery, supposedly, we're getting ready to celebrate Juneteenth, where our people didn't even know they was free. And even today, we act like we don't know that we're free. Because when you have knowledge and power, you change your environment. You don't adapt to your environment. You change the environment for your benefit. And so certainly one of those areas that we have not changed is the area of education. And like I said, in a future show, we'll talk more about how public education was set up intentionally to keep light out of the minds of Black people, but then gone beyond that and really to keep the light out of the minds of the masses of the people. Public education was never set up to be able to properly educate the masses of the people, to be able to cultivate the gifts from within for them to go and then manifest God-like expression, meaning they can go out now and change reality and bring into fruition whatever they envision. That was never an intention, and that can be proven. We're not going to do it on this particular episode, but that can be proven.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and of course, sometimes, and of course, we probably should have talked a little bit more about this beforehand, but the importance of the difference from knowledge and information. And sometimes I don't really like the definitions that they give, because in the definition for information, they actually say knowledge obtained from investigation, study, or instruction. But usually when I think of information, I just think about data. It's not necessarily the difference from knowledge and information is the capacity or ability to use it. So the definition that they give here for knowledge is there's a few of them. The factor or condition of knowing something with familiarity gained through experience or association. But knowledge, that's the difference from knowledge. When they say knowledge is power, it means that it gives you ability and the potential to do something with it. There's a lot of information that we may have, but we don't necessarily know how or have no way in which we know how to utilize that for our benefit. So when that light touches us, the proper light, that proper knowledge touches us, then we're told just as the light of the sun touches the earth, it begins to make it move. So we're taught that that we're in a dead condition, and that dead condition is because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of the proper knowledge. Because you can tell the condition of our people that we're lacking of knowledge because we're not moving. Once that light touches you, you can't do anything but move. So praise you to Allah.
So, Brother Troy, as you're talking, so keeping God out of school, how do you see that in terms of what does that really mean? Is that talking about religion? Is that talking about something else? How is that to be understood?
Well, so, and we talked about this, of course, in study group, and we talked about it beforehand a little bit, but is that what God are you talking about? And when we're taught, and we've been taught, part of a direct connection of white supremacy is connected to the belief of a mystery God. Because the goal of us really seeing ourselves properly is, once we know and see ourselves properly, and we have the knowledge of ourselves, and we see our connection and relationship to God, then that changes everything. And it changes how we approach everything that we study. Of course, in that lecture that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan developed the study, or that the Study Guide 21 was developed from, is the minister talks about seeing ourselves and acknowledging the headmaster, and knowing that the true headmaster of the educational system, or anything, or the study of anything, is God. So if you're going to study something, how could you leave out the origin? And that's one of the principles that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives us, and always encourages us to always go to the root knowledge. If you can go to the source of it, then you have a better grasp and better understanding of everything that you study. So if we're starting outside of where whatever we're studying originates, then we already know that we're losing a part of it. We can never really grasp the full essence of it if you don't know the way in which a thing starts, because that gives us a perspective and an understanding on how and what we can expect the path for it to take when we know how a thing began and where it started and its origin.
Yeah, speaking of origin, I mean, that right there is at the root of it. The fact that if we, or as students, which we all are, if we don't realize our connection to God, our origin, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us, that our origin is in the Creator, that we're direct descendants of the Creator. And to just start with that understanding. In fact, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said you should start off in preschool with the understanding that ye are all God's.
That's right.
Children of the Most High God. And I think that there's always been an aversion anytime you deal with, for example, in this sentence right here, knowledge gives us the power to act like God. And even in the way this is written, it says capital G, to act like God. We like push back on that because we've been trained to think that God is somewhere far out, like you said, Spooksville, that we have no direct connection to. But when you understand that there is a connection and you don't cross that line, which we've talked about, to where you think you are the Most High, which makes you probably really high, then you crossed over into something else. But when you understand it in proper context, then you are able to, from that vantage point, realizing your origin, be able to see your potential,
right,
and to realize that you aren't just studying something outside of yourself, but everything that you study, you're studying self, because all of that is within self.
One of the things that I think about, the one of the most important reasons for us to know the reality of God and to see ourselves, as in the Bible it says, ye are all God's children of the Most High God, and all of those things that are given, that we are made in his image and likeness, is because what it puts on us is responsibility. When you believe in a mystery God, then it takes the responsibility off of you. You don't have to really, whatever happens to you, you don't see yourself as cause, you see yourself as effect. So you don't see yourself as being one that has to change your reality, you can sit around and wait for something or someone or it or that to change your reality. But when you begin to see yourself as connected to God, and you see the responsibility, and or begin to grow into the knowledge of what you have the capacity to do, then you start having to look at yourself a lot different. And if you don't like your current condition, if you don't like your current reality, if you don't like what's going on around you, if you don't like something that's in your space, especially as it's directly to you, then you can't sit back and relax and blame somebody. You can't say it's because somebody didn't do it, or it's because I don't have enough money right now. It removes all of those excuses out of your way when you begin to see yourself properly. And for some, that may be a bad thing, but the reality is, if you begin to see that most of what your reality has been caused by the person that you look at in the mirror every single day. With that, the same person can change it.
That's true. And that's true. One thing that I do take courage in, or that I've noticed rather, is that, and we talked about this, Brother Troy, is that there seems to be a change in the language that's being spoken with reference to God, in that you're starting to see the impact of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You're seeing changes in the thinking of brothers and sisters in terms of the God within.
Right.
And so I brought up the situation with the example rather of Chris Paul. So you had Chris Paul, right, playing for the Phoenix Suns. Of course, they didn't win the championship, but during the course of the playoffs, he had a game where I think he was like he didn't miss a shot. I know he didn't miss a shot. He might have been 14 for 14, played tremendous. And his position is, they call it a point guard. So basically he runs the show like a quarterback in basketball. But they were referencing him as being a point god. And I had no problem with that, because how long have we been talking about, I'm a dog, or I'm a beast, I'm in beast mode. But now we're starting to change the language. I saw an interview with Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant was being interviewed by JJ Redick and another gentleman, I don't recall their name, both white. And they were asking him what, to describe what it's like when he goes into God mode. Because not this year, but last year when the Nets were battling the Milwaukee Bucks, and he basically was on his own doing his thing, and he darn near beat them by himself. They wanted to know, what does it feel like to go into that God mode? And I said, I have no problem with that, because when you understand, they're not talking about, God Almighty mode, but they are talking about the manifestation of God, manifesting force and power in your sphere to have tremendous impact. And that's what they were referencing. And that is absolutely correct, accurate. And for me, I love to hear that language. We just want to make sure we keep the understanding that we don't take it to the extreme.
Right. And with that is, one of the things I reflected on is that, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that every time I see a black man, I'm looking at God. And what in many instances, we don't know who and what we are, but it's interesting that sometimes we can be exercising force and power and not really know that it's us. The example that I've given is that sometimes, have you ever walked past something or walked past a table, and then when you turn around, an object has fallen on the floor, and you like, who's done that? Who did that? And you're the only one there. You're exercising force and power, but you're just doing it recklessly. So there's things that are happening in our lives, and you're the source of it. You're the one that made it happen, but you just haven't come into the knowledge that it's you. So I think that's going back to the importance of knowing who we are is so significant. And just like with the athletes, there's something that they know. It's, of course, there's a skill that they have, the athleticism, but there's something that's in their mind that allows them to function a particular type of way. And it goes back to that light that Henry Berry spoke of, but they have desired to limit the light and just put us in a particular space that we have a knowledge in this area, but don't necessarily grow to evolve so that we can apply those same principles throughout other aspects of our lives.
Mm. It's interesting that Henry Berry's point in what he said actually aligns also with writings that are attributed to Willie Lynch. And I know a lot of people say, well, Willie Lynch, he wasn't real, and he ain't no such thing. However, when you read those writings that are on paper, that came from somewhere, you see principles that absolutely were acted upon and have impact. So whether or not he's, was an actual person, that actual thinking and strategy was absolutely employed. And part of that did also have the thought in mind to be able to try to, in the language, I have the language in a folder. I'm not going to pull it out right this second, but to be able to prohibit light, which was something that was a natural occurring thing. Light is always going to manifest. And the oppressors and those that wanted to keep the status quo, want to maintain their power and control, have always understood that light was coming. And so his point, Henry Berry's point, and others, was that you can't stop the light from coming, but however, perhaps we can extinguish the capacity to see the light, to make you what? Blind. And so if we can blind them, then when the light comes, it's not going to matter. And unfortunately, education, public education in particular, is designed to blind you so that when light is present, you don't see it. And in many cases, maybe you are able to see it, but you'll never really accept it and act upon it. You will stay assimilated in a system that is designed to keep you a perpetual slave.
Wow. I mean, a lot of thoughts just kind of flowed through my mind as you were speaking, because we're told that the aim of this world is to kill the messenger of God. And so if that is true, and it is, then that means that also with that light is, as you said, is that you may not necessarily be able to block that light, but there has to be something done to us so that when that light comes on, that it doesn't allow us to see properly. And so, you have the kaleidoscopes, and you have these prisms where when light hits it, you don't necessarily see things as they really are, but you may see some type of distortion that occurs. And of course, you're the scientist, so I know you're like breaking it down on what actually is happening. But even just understanding that there's a way and there's things that can be done, that even though you may see something, but things can be introduced that allow you not to be able to see it in its proper light. So you can see it in an altered type of way. You think that you're looking straight at it, but it's because something has been introduced, you're not able to necessarily see it properly. There's another lens that's there, right? So, and I think that as you were saying, that it really struck me is that in a natural state, when the light hits something, it allows you to see it better. But since this system knows that, then they fight and make sure that they can do whatever they can so that even if you're going to see it, you're not going to see it properly.
Yeah. And we only got a couple minutes left, but want to close on a couple of thoughts, and maybe in future shows we can go deeper into it. But one of the misconceptions of education, public education in particular, is that it's broken and needs to be fixed. And what I've always said is that no, it's not broken. It's working perfectly according to design. Going back to our earlier point that it was never designed to properly educate, it was actually designed to miseducate. And again, a lot of people don't believe that. A lot of people have difficulty with that. But we got, as they say nowadays, the receipts. I guess that's the saying now. We got the receipts. But the receipts are readily available. And maybe in a future show, we will go into those receipts. It would take too much time to do it now. We're getting ready to close out. But then the question becomes, okay, if the system is what it is, and if it's working 100% like it should, then what is our responsibility?
We're looking for you. We want to see in the comments. We're not going to get that answer today, but we want to see in the comments, what your thoughts are on that. What is our responsibility? Because of course, even though we can't necessarily hear you and all that you may be saying and all the thoughts that you may have, we love to see and hear them through seeing and viewing them through the comments. So, hey, that's the question for today. Brother Bobby, is there anything else we need to touch on
No, sir.
I would just please encourage you. We have a list of guests that we are going to seek out, that we're looking forward to bringing on by Law's permission. So if there's someone that you would recommend, if there's topics that you have for us, we definitely encourage and look forward to those. But please, 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 your feedback is so important to us. We look forward to seeing it. Please subscribe to the Muhammad Online Science Academy's Facebook page as well as YouTube page, and check out the website. And you can do that, register for courses that right now, while you can, limited time only, register for the courses free. Because I mean, that just it can't always be
introductory offer.
So please take the opportunity to do so. And of course, follow and subscribe the Collective 9 on all social media platforms. Until next time, Brother Bobby, I'm gonna leave you with the closing words.
Closing words. We want to thank each and every one of you for your presence and your participation. We see you over in the chat. We got Annie Wright. We got Sister Kenyetta. We got Sister Debbie. Many more. Sister Bernadette. We want to thank you for coming. Spread the word. We intend to make this a regular affair. And like Brother Troy said, we got some powerhouse guests. Matter of fact, if you didn't check out the last episode, man, hey, you got to check out. Was it episode 3? What episode we on?
We on 4 now, so that was 3.
Episode 3. Dr. Abul Petrie, you have got to check that episode out. That was that was powerful. So check that out. Check out the other episodes. Give us feedback, and we look forward to seeing you on future shows.
Praise be to Allah. Until next time, education is the key. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.